At exactly 4:07 in the morning, Daniel was on his knees scrubbing coffee stains from the marble floor of the most expensive restaurant in the city. The restaurant was called Belmont. It sat on the top floor of a luxury hotel overlooking the sleeping city. During the day, billionaires held meetings there. At night, celebrities celebrated there. But at 4 in the morning, there was only silence. And Daniel, he was 38 years old, a single father, and the overnight cleaning supervisor. Nobody who saw him pushing a mop bucket through the empty dining room would have guessed that he had once dreamed of something completely different. Daniel had been an engineer, a very good one, until his wife died. After that, everything changed. He had a 6-year-old daughter named Lily. She was the reason he kept going. Every morning before school, Daniel packed her lunch. Every afternoon, he called to make sure she got home safely. Every night, he worked until his body felt like it couldn't move anymore. Then he went home, checked Lily's homework, made dinner, and tried to sleep for a few hours. That night had been especially difficult. Daniel had received a phone call from Lily's school earlier that afternoon. "Mr. Carter, we need to discuss Lily's tuition." He had already known what was coming. He was 3 months behind. "I'll pay it," he promised. When Daniel closed his eyes. Friday. It was Wednesday. He had $43 in his bank account. Still, he had said Friday. Because fathers sometimes made promises before they knew how they would keep them. At 4:07 a.m., Daniel finished cleaning one section of the dining room. He leaned against the mop handle. His shoulders hurt. His back hurt. His hands were cracked from years of cleaning chemicals. Then his phone vibrated. He pulled it from his pocket. One message. From Lily's school. Final notice. Payment must be received by Friday or enrollment will be suspended. Daniel stared at the screen. His eyes burned. He quickly put the phone away. He didn't want to cry. Not at work. Not again. But the tears came anyway. He walked to one of the empty tables and sat down. For a few seconds, he covered his face. Then he whispered, "I'm sorry, Lily." He didn't realize someone was watching. At the far end of the dining room, a woman sat alone. Her name was Victoria Sterling. She was 39 years old, a billionaire, owner of Sterling Global, and one of the wealthiest women in the country. She had arrived at Belmont at 3:30 a.m. after returning from a business trip. She couldn't sleep, so she had asked the night staff to let her sit in the dining room. She had been reviewing documents on her tablet when she noticed Daniel. At first, she assumed he was exhausted. Then she saw him crying. She watched quietly. He wasn't crying loudly. There was no dramatic sobbing. Just tears running down his face while he stared at his phone. Victoria lowered her tablet. Something about him bothered her. Not because he was crying. Because he looked like a man who had been holding everything together for too long. She stood. Daniel immediately wiped his face when he noticed her. "I'm sorry, ma'am." Victoria walked toward him. "You don't need to apologize." Daniel stood. "I shouldn't be sitting here. You were taking a break." "Yes." "You looked exhausted." "I am." Victoria glanced at the cleaning cart. "How long have you been working?" "Since midnight." "And you finish?" 6. She looked at the clock. 2 more hours. "Do you always work nights?" "Most nights." "Why?" Daniel hesitated. "Daytime is for my daughter." Victoria looked at him. "How old?" 6. "Her mother?" Daniel's face changed. "She's gone." Victoria immediately regretted asking. "I'm sorry." Daniel nodded. "It's okay." It clearly wasn't. Victoria sat at the table. "Sit." Daniel hesitated. "I shouldn't." "That's an order." He sat. Victoria looked at him. "What happened?" Daniel shook his head. "Nothing." "You were crying." He looked down. "It's just a bad night." Victoria studied him. "What makes tonight worse than the others?" Daniel didn't answer. Then his phone buzzed again. He looked at the screen. Victoria saw the message. She didn't need to read every word. She understood enough. "Your daughter." Daniel nodded. "School fees." Victoria was silent. Daniel suddenly looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "Talking about money." "You didn't." "I shouldn't have brought it up." "You didn't bring it up." Victoria looked at him. "I asked." Daniel rubbed his eyes. "I'm just tired." "Of cleaning?" "No." He shook his head. "Of failing." Victoria's expression changed. "You're not failing." Daniel laughed bitterly. "Feels like it." He looked toward the windows. "You know what's strange?" "What?" "People think being a single father means you're strong." He smiled sadly. "But sometimes I just want someone to tell me I don't have to be strong for 5 minutes." Victoria felt something tighten in her chest. She had spent years surrounded by people who wanted something from her. investors, executives, lawyers, friends, relatives. Everyone wanted her to be strong. Nobody ever asked if she was tired. Now this exhausted cleaner was saying exactly what she had felt for years. Daniel continued. I promised Lily I'd keep her in that school. Why is it important? She loves it. He pulled a small photograph from his wallet. It showed a little girl wearing a school uniform and smiling beside a science project. Victoria stared at the picture. She's beautiful. Daniel smiled. She's everything. Then he said something that made Victoria's heart stop. I don't care if I have to work 3 jobs. She looked at him. I'll do it. Why? Because when her mother died, Lily asked me if I was going to leave too. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Daniel looked down. She was 4. He swallowed. I told her no. His voice broke. So I can't break that promise. Victoria stared at him. The billionaire who could buy almost anything in the world suddenly felt completely powerless. She could buy buildings, companies, private jets, entire islands. But she couldn't buy back the mother that little girl had lost. She couldn't erase the fear from a 4-year-old child's memory. And she couldn't understand how a man who had every reason to collapse was still showing up at 4 in the morning to clean floors so his daughter could have a normal childhood. Victoria stood. Wait here. Daniel looked confused. Why? I'll be back. She walked toward the kitchen. Daniel watched her disappear. 5 minutes later, she returned carrying a cup of coffee and a plate of food. She placed them in front of him. Eat. Daniel stared. I can't. Why? I'm working. You've been working for 4 hours. He smiled weakly. I can't afford to waste time. Victoria sat across from him. Then consider this an investment. Daniel looked at her. What? She pointed toward the food. Eat. He finally picked up the sandwich. For the first time that night, he took a full bite. Victoria watched him. Then she asked quietly, Daniel, if you could have one thing right now, what would it be? He didn't hesitate. Time. Victoria frowned. Time. More time with my daughter. He looked down. Money would help. But money isn't what I really want. Victoria stared at him. What do you want? Daniel looked toward the windows. I want Lily to grow up remembering me as her dad. His voice trembled. Not the man who was always working. Victoria felt tears slip down her cheek. She quickly wiped them away. Daniel noticed. Are you okay? She nodded. Yes. But she wasn't. Because she had just realized something that would change both of their lives. The man she had assumed was simply a tired cleaner wasn't poor because he lacked ambition. He was sacrificing everything because he loved his daughter. And Victoria Sterling had spent years believing that money was the ultimate form of security. At 4:43 a.m., sitting across from a single father with cracked hands and tired eyes, she realized she had been wrong. Sometimes the richest person in the room wasn't the person with the most money. Sometimes it was the person who still had something worth sacrificing everything for. At 5:02 a.m., Victoria was still sitting across from Daniel. The restaurant remained silent around them. Daniel had finished the sandwich, but he kept glancing at the clock. I should get back to work. Victoria shook her head. Why? Because the floor isn't going to clean itself. She smiled. You're very stubborn. Daniel laughed. I have a daughter. That explains it. Completely. Victoria looked at the photograph of Lily again. What's her favorite subject? Science. Really? She wants to build robots. Victoria smiled. Maybe she'll build one that cleans restaurants. Daniel laughed. Then I'll finally retire. For a few seconds, neither spoke. Then Daniel's phone vibrated again. He looked at it. His expression changed. Victoria noticed immediately. What happened? Daniel slowly turned the screen toward himself. Another message from the school. Payment deadline moved to tomorrow morning. His shoulders dropped. Victoria watched him carefully. How much? Daniel didn't answer. Daniel. 3,800. Victoria's eyebrows rose. That's just the immediate amount. Yes. Can you pay it? He gave a bitter smile. I have $43. Victoria leaned back. Why didn't you tell me? Because you're my boss. I'm the owner of this building. Exactly. She studied him. Would you accept a loan? No. Why? Because I don't want to owe you. You'd owe the company. That's worse. She laughed softly. You really don't trust wealthy people. I don't trust money. Why? Daniel looked down. Because when my wife was sick, I learned how quickly people disappear when you can't pay. Victoria's expression softened. What happened? She needed surgery. He paused. We didn't have enough. Victoria didn't interrupt. People promised to help, He smiled sadly. Most of them stopped answering. Victoria looked away. Did she survive? Daniel shook his head. No. Silence. The clock ticked. 5:08. Daniel stared at the table. I don't blame them. Victoria looked surprised. You don't? No. Why not? People get scared. He shrugged. But I learned something. What? Never build your life around someone else's promise. Victoria remembered every business deal she had ever made. Every contract. Every promise. Every handshake. Daniel had learned the lesson she had spent decades avoiding. He stood. I really need to finish. Victoria stood too. Fine. Daniel looked relieved. Thank you. But I want you to do something. What? Give me your resume. He frowned. I don't have one. Then make one. Why? Because I want to know what you're capable of. Daniel looked confused. I'm a cleaner. Victoria smiled. That's what you do. She pointed toward the restaurant. I asked the manager about you. Daniel's expression changed. What did he say? He said you've never missed a shift. Daniel shrugged. He said you train new employees. I just show them how things work. He said you've reduced supply costs by 20%. Daniel laughed. I noticed we were wasting things. He said you've prevented 3 safety incidents. Daniel became quiet. I was just paying attention. Victoria nodded. Exactly. She pulled out her phone. I own 12 properties. Daniel stared. I need someone who understands operations. You're offering me a promotion? I'm offering you an interview. Daniel shook his head. I don't have a degree. I didn't ask about a degree. I don't know corporate systems. I can teach you. I need to be home by 3. Then you'll be home by 3. Daniel stared at her. Why are you doing this? Victoria answered honestly. Because you reminded me of someone. Who? My father. Daniel waited. He started with nothing. Victoria smiled faintly. He built his first company by working nights. What happened? He became successful. That's good. He forgot why he started. Daniel looked at her. Money changed him. Victoria nodded. He became obsessed with protecting the company. She looked toward the dark windows. He missed birthdays, Christmases, school plays, everything. Daniel understood. Was he there when you needed him? Victoria's voice became quiet. No. That answer explained everything. Daniel sat back down. You don't want to become him. No. Victoria looked at him. And I don't want to spend the rest of my life becoming someone I don't recognize. Daniel nodded slowly. You should talk to him. He died. Daniel looked down. I'm sorry. Thank you. The two sat quietly. Then Daniel said, you can still forgive him.